Bienvenidos.
Welcome. You may begin your tour by visiting the many historical and archaeological sites in the region of Mexico known as the Valley of Puebla. Or you may go directly to the Amparo Museum to explore its excellent pre-Hispanic art collection. Amparo Museum. The Valley of Puebla. The Valley. Visitors to the Valley of Puebla watch the sunset behind these volcanoes, just as our ancient ancestors did over 4,000 years ago. You may recognize the silhouettes of the lovers, the handsome warrior Popocatépetl on the left, who returned from his battles to find his love, Iztaccíhuatl, had lain waiting for his safe return until she gave up hope and turned into the volcano on the right. To the north, the Cacaxtla Fortress, with its extraordinary murals, may have been the home of the classical Olmecas Xicalanga tribes, even before the Mayans, Otomí, and Tlaxcalans. In more modern times, the armies of independent Tlaxcala nearly changed the fate of the Western world when they joined the neighboring Otomí and held Cortés at bay for several days when he sought passage through their lands. Cholula, with its Great Pyramid, gives evidence to its heritage as a religious Mecca that supported a sophisticated political and artistic culture. The Temple of the Virgin de los Remedios now stands atop the Great Pyramid, continuing the tradition of Cholula as a holy city. The spiritual conquest followed the military conquest, and in 1524, the Franciscans founded their first monasteries in Tlaxcala, Cholula, and Huejotzinco. The monks not only spread Christianity to the native populations, they brought a new form of law and government that swore allegiance to a foreign power. This early deed, written in Spanish and native symbols, conveyed land bordered by the volcanoes to a colonist, probably one sent by Queen Isabella to help secure the land called New Spain. In 1531, in an area that bordered the old independent native empires, the Spanish laid out a city, Puebla de los Angeles. This city grew in riches, first as an agricultural base, then establishing the first industrial factories in America, to become an intellectual Mecca with artisans and architecture to rival any in the hemisphere. While you are visiting here in the Valley of Puebla, you can enjoy the riches of the region by visiting the archaeological zone of Cacaxtla to study the fabulous mural paintings. Walk the path of the Franciscan monks at Huejotzinco, one of the first missions established in New Spain. Join the modern-day pilgrims who visit Cholula with its Great Pyramid and 16th century Christian center. Tour Puebla and admire the variety of architecture and multicolored tile. All part of the riches of the Valley of Puebla. Touch the Cholula, Huejotzinco. Even before the end of the conquest, 12 Franciscan monks were sent to evangelize the vast indigenous population found in New Spain. Huejotzinco is one of 4 sites the monks chose to begin their conversion of the Indians. This church and monastery, San Miguel Huejotzinco, was begun in 1544 and is an excellent example of the 16th century architecture executed by native craftsmen using European designs. Though Indians were not allowed to express opinions about the new religion, many signs of pre-Hispanic art are present throughout the stonework of Huejotzinco. Note the work on the columns along the monastery walkway. The 2 designs on this column show very different influences. The patio, or courtyard of Huejotzinco, is surrounded by a wall and was used for services on special holidays, for festivals and educational events. In each corner is a small structure from which communion could be dispensed to large crowds. The angels, each having its own special meaning, are amazing works and deserve individual study. The native craftsmen were brilliant stone carvers before the Spaniards arrived, and their work is evident throughout Huejotzingo. This side door is another example of tequiri, the blending of European style and native ingenuity. A contract executed in 1580 with the Flemish painter Perens resulted in this monumental altarpiece. Only 3 of the Renaissance masterpieces have survived, and they are the basis of one of the greatest of Mexican art forms, the retablo. By organizing craftsmen, Perens changed the whole character of church decoration in New Spain. Restored to its splendor in recent years, this retablo shows not a trace of Indian taste or style. The town of Huejotzingo was established by Spaniards as an agricultural community and continues to exist alongside the wall of this 16th century mission. Cacaxtla. Perhaps they were Olmeca Xicalanca, maybe Mayan, Otorni, or the Mixtecs Popoloca tribe. There is still much to learn about the ancient peoples who built Cacaxtla, and whose incredible works of pictorial art have survived for 15 centuries. The excavation that has been done reveals the existence of a powerful agricultural society that witnessed the merging and meeting of various tribes. Only a fraction of the ceremonial center has been uncovered, and already it yields wonders such as this battle mural. Note the realism in the faces and adornments of the warriors and their captives. The indication of motion is exceptional in Mesoamerican art. Evidence of sacrifice found at the base of this mural verifies the ceremonial care with which the mural was covered before the site was abandoned. This mural, apparently leading to a lower level of the structure, offers many insights into the society that lived here in the 8th century. The glyphs on the edge of the lower step appear to be Mayan. The merchant is the central figure in the mural. To his right, we can see his carrier loaded with foodstuffs native to the region. The merchant is clothed in a jaguar skin, and from his staff, we could speculate that he is a traveler. The figure above the merchant's arm, 4 colored balls and the head of an animal, indicate the date of the mural, 4 rabbit. The appearance of cocoa and maize plants confirm this as an agricultural society. Corn held a sacred place in Mesoamerica as a basic source of food, therefore life. Note the faces and the ears of corn. Artisans traveling inland from the Gulf Coast must have influenced these paintings because marine creatures not native to the region can be seen in the water flowing as the border. No human figures appear in the mural on the opposite wall. Here, the wonderfully detailed animals reach through the border to snare sea creatures. Throughout Cacaxtla, animals adorn the murals. Some are stylized, but many look as if painted today. Columns surround the Cacaxtla ceremonial site, and these 2 are especially significant. The column on the right shows a man with a clearly defined scorpion tail. The incomplete figure on the left is a woman. Heretofore considered a male ceremonial center, this painting sheds new light on the mysteries of Cacaxtla. Archaeologists have unraveled only a fraction of the story this discovery has to tell. In the meantime, the excavation is protected with a metal roof to preserve the messages left by the ancient ancestors for generations to come. Cholula. Cholula, this pre-Hispanic religious center, was once dedicated to the worship of the ancient god of rain. During the colonial period, the city was rededicated to the Virgin de los Remedios, patroness of the conquest, and her temple now stands atop the Great Pyramid. Cholula is the largest at its base of all the pre-Hispanic pyramids, and dates from pre-Christian times to the end of the 8th century. The interior walls of the upper pyramid reveal tablero panel murals, probably from the 2nd or 3rd century, depicting religious ceremonies and daily life. The drinkers, showing a planting or harvest ceremony, offers one of the most original and naturalistic of all pre-Hispanic works. Most of the drinkers wear animal masks. This amazingly well-preserved mural is approximately 20 meters long and 2 meters high. The original pyramid, estimated to be 2,000 years old, reveals a most unique mural of crickets or grasshoppers. These were painted on the outside walls of the structure in about 200 BC. At that time, this would have been a vertical wall, but time has caused the plates to shift, giving this wall its stepped appearance. This ancient city, when first seen by Cortés, held 20,000 houses within its walls whose inhabitants excelled in the arts. Cholula's reputation for ceramic art can be traced back to the early classical period, where pottery such as this bowl was developed. These ceramics, decorated in geometric, realistic, or symbolic styles, approach pictograph writing. The finest pieces produced by the artisans of Cholula come from the post-classical period and the creation of the famed polychrome Cholula ware. This modern bowl imitates the pottery tradition of Cholula. Each September, thousands flock to Cholula to celebrate the Festival of the Virgin, taking away with them the same sense of spiritual renewal that drew their ancestors to this great pyramid. Puebla de los Angeles. In an attempt to settle the roaming Spaniards following the conquest, the court of Spain created an experiment of a political republic. Legend says the Bishop of Tlaxcala saw the site for the city in a dream of angels. Hence, in this fertile valley, Puebla, City of the Angels, was founded and grew to be the most important city in Mexico, next to the capital. Puebla expressed the dream of a magical world to be created in America and was meant to serve as an example for colonizing the rest of Mexico. Towards this goal, the court of Isabella sent envoys, tax dispensations, and all manner of support. Puebla's location, on the road between Veracruz and the capital, offered trade and economic opportunity that was quickly taken advantage of by the early residents. Textiles were produced in the area as early as 5,800 years before Christ, and the Spaniards turned this art into small textile factories. The first glass factory was opened in 1542. Pottery factories, another art indigenous to the area, sprung up shortly thereafter, followed by lead toys, wax factories to make candles and statues, and all types of goods to be traded to the rest of Mexico and South America. The rich heritage of Puebla is readily apparent to visitors through its architecture, religious and military history, and its love of the arts. 16th century Puebla asserted a solidly Castilian appearance with its lined streets, corner balconies, carved stone buildings, and noble-looking entryways. The severely designed cathedral, completed in the 17th century, dominated architectural choices for the city, but not so completely that Baroque influence was not felt, particularly in church interiors. The recently restored Chapel of the Rosary is an excellent example of Mexican Baroque, where European style was combined with local originality and inspiration from native artisans. During the early part of the 18th century appeared the first examples of a decorative art at which Puebla excelled: stucco, a construction that served as a model for all of Mexico. This same period saw a prolific birth of red brick buildings with stone archways trimmed with decorative tiles. These tiles, whose origins date back to the Babylonians, appeared on every sort of surface and are still made today in much the same way as the original tiles. The strategic location of Puebla gave it special importance during the bloody military actions of the mid-1800s. The city was under siege by the Federalists, Centralists, and the conservative forces. A prolonged siege by the French army resulted in the Battle of Puebla. later known as Cinco de Mayo, and finally, the siege imposed by liberalist General Diaz on the conservatives in 1867. Prosperity returned to the region. However, a deep populist discontent culminated with the uprising in Puebla on November 18, 1910, of the Cerdán brothers and their sister Carmen, marking the outbreak of the Mexican Revolution. The arts have always been a significant part of Puebla's culture, beginning with the religious plays the Jesuits presented in the 1570s. The frontispiece of the main theater, opened in 1761, expresses the commitment of Puebla to the arts. In translation, good art ennobles the people. The Pueblan belief that art enhances man can be found in the architecture, the hundreds of churches of Puebla, its many public markets, and most recently in the Amparo Museum, whose pre-Hispanic collection is featured on this disc. Puebla, now a city of almost 2 million people, treasures and protects its roots for Mexicans and for the world. Visitors can absorb the mysteries of ancient Mexico, the religious heritage of the Franciscans, the Dominicans, and the education-minded Jesuits, a spirit that fostered the first shots of the Mexican Revolution, and find a modern-day Puebla that is thoroughly original and completely Mexican. Huejotzinco, Amparo Museum. Art is humanity's most precious wealth, since through it, the best of man's spirit is transmitted from generation to generation. In this spirit, Don Manuel Espinosa Iglesias, through the Amparo Foundation, created the Amparo Museum. Housed in his ancestral home, the museum is named to honor the memory of his wife, Señora Amparo Ru Garcia de Espinosa. The museum presents a remarkable collection of artistic and cultural expression from the pre-Hispanic era, as well as a glimpse into colonial life in Viceroyal Mexico. In this disc, the museum shows a vision of Mesoamerican art and its development during the 3,000 years before the conquest. The museum offers 7 primary galleries of pre-Hispanic art, providing an introduction to the techniques used by the artisans, the object's cultural functions, and the evolution of the societies in which the styles and tendencies were created. Mesoamerica, a broad cultural region, emerges as the sum of the collective heritages and common traits, influencing the art of the world. An encounter with our roots. To determine which gallery you wish to visit, move the arrow across the objects and the description of the part of the collection each represents. Select the object indicating your choice. Techniques in the production of art.
With rudimentary tools and limitations such as the lack of knowledge regarding hard metals, among others, the same techniques of artistic creation and decoration were applied to rocks of colossal dimensions as to small figurines in jade, obsidian, and rock crystal. With clay, wood, feathers, plant fibers, gold, silver, and copper, Mesoamerica created works of unequaled aesthetic value. If you would like to learn how to find objects, touch the question mark in the lower right corner of the screen. The beautiful blend of quartz, silver, and pyrite of one of these hatchets, and the greenness of the other's jadeite, inspired the Mesoamerican artisan to follow designs and use similar techniques. The beautiful blend of quartz, the carving, drilling, fretwork, and polishing applied in the creation of this piece is astounding. The tools used, Hammers, drills, and henequen fiber fret saws affixed with emery needed to be precise. Because of jade's unusual hardness, artisans had to carve it with ingenious tools, such as otate fibers, emeries of quartz and sand, and bow drills. Such techniques were used to create pieces such as these necklace beads depicting jaguars. Mesoamerican volcanoes provided an abundance of basaltic rock, which apart from being used in construction, was used in the manufacture of many domestic tools and ritual objects, such as this Olmec sculpture with feline features. This rare and delicate vessel of extremely hard stone indicates a meticulous hollowing process of drilling with quartz and jade bits, chipping away, and finally carving and intense polishing with sand and broken stone. The creation in clay of scenes from daily life requires the careful modeling of the clay and the mixing and painting in cream, red, and black. To make this small clay figurine, the artist employed molding techniques, applied adornments using a slip cement, and finished with incisions to highlight the piece's lines and traits. To decorate this hollow clay sculpture of a bearded character in meditation, techniques of polishing with engobe or yellow varnish and red paint were used. This beautiful piece, depicting a reclining jaguar, was molded in clay and later adorned with spots using the lost wax or negative technique. Pieces like this well-formed dog-shaped vessel are the product of highly specialized work, which suggests the selection of special clays and kaolins. The careful preparation of the mold down to the finest detail suggests a slow, meticulous creative process. Works in miniature were a frequent expression in Mesoamerican art. These required great skill and precision in the handling of the tools in order to maintain a sense of proportion. Expert hands, the principal tool of the artist, play with the clay, molding various images of daily life and of his concept of the universe. The capricious forms on this vessel were highlighted by beautiful pictorial motifs of various colors and tones, which bring expression to this female water carrier and meaning to the divine liquid she carries.
Tendencies, functions of art.
Beauty and symbology characterized artistic objects produced for all kinds of uses and functions, ranging from the everyday to the ceremonial, used in simple homes as well as in the luxurious spaces and adornments of the great lords. Art was intimately linked with a profound sense of meaning throughout Mesoamerica. If you would like to learn how to find objects, touch the question mark in the lower right corner of the screen. These sculptures of pregnant women were used frequently in Mesoamerican domestic altars to bring fertility not only to the family, but also to the land. This ritual mammillary vessel symbolizes abundance. Its four breasts represent the four directions, as well as the divine liquids: water, rain, blood, and milk. This sculpture, depicting an elegantly attired woman dressed in an elaborate headdress and short skirt, was used as a mortuary offering as part of a customary burial ritual. This sculpture, depicting a squirrel or badger, could have been related to the concept of play, as the sense of humor reflected in its form might lead one to believe. This miniature basalt skull with mother-of-pearl inlays is one of the many beads that formed a Huastec warrior's necklace made between 1000 and 1500 A.D., a period in which war was the most important activity and a primary means of personal distinction. During this time, human skulls were both trophies and decorations. A jewel such as this one, of obsidian and gold, was worn on the chin of the priest or leader. In addition to the dignity and splendor it bestowed on its wearer, this piece also symbolized the authority of his words and decisions.
Tendencies of art.
Conscious artistic expression manifested itself early in Mesoamerican history. Societies which were still Neolithic created the mark of a cultural tradition in their art and developed styles which would be enriched with the passage of time. Creativity overflowed in faithful depictions of reality, as well as in symbolic representations. If you would like to learn how to find objects, touch the question mark in the Nature provided the forms which the artist simplified with lines and outlines until various symbolic representations were created. In this bird from Tabasco, one can note the early stages of abstraction. With its rough lines, this anthropomorphic sculpture from Tlatilco characterizes a style from the early stages of art in the Mesoamerican highlands. These types of features are repeated in areas influenced by this style. The dog was the Mesoamerican's companion in life and death, and its representation often acquired dramatic elements, as we see in this Colima vessel depicting the animal with connotations of the afterworld. From time to time, atypical pieces were produced outside of the more common Mesoamerican styles and themes. An example is this unusual remojadas urn, which is extremely difficult to interpret and classify. Discoveries in the necropolis on Haina Island have revealed the exquisite styles in classical Mayan ceramic work. A good example is this charming rabbit. The composition of the banks of clay in central Veracruz gives the material a special malleability and a smoothness in its finish which is characteristic of the region's artistic styles. This can be seen in this anthropomorphic head. Mexica stamps contained the characteristic styles printed on the fabrics of the time. The image of the rabbit was mythologically related to the moon.
Art in the pre-classical period. More than 4,000 years ago, Mesoamerican art began to emerge in settled villages. The structure of the community was most probably organized around kinship, based on a common mythical ancestor. Along with hunting and fishing, farming and the domestication of animals brought improved living conditions. Tools multiplied and were perfected, and artists created elaborate artwork to express their beliefs and knowledge.
If you would like to learn how to find objects,
Covering the face with different masks is among the most ancient of magic rituals. This small mask from Tlatilco, Valley of Mexico, seems to represent a face covered with the flayed skin of a victim sacrificed in the rites dedicated to the god of agriculture, Xipatotec. Nowadays, Masks are worn in many regional dances. Once settled, the Mesoamerican farmer had more time to organize his life and dedicate himself to activities such as dance, as represented in this clay figurine, possibly of a warrior from Tlatilco, Valley of Mexico. This characteristic survives in many contemporary indigenous dances, such as the dance of the Quetzals in the state of Puebla. The jaguar was venerated by the Olmecs as their legitimate ancestor. Their descendants held the feline's characteristics and powers in high esteem. This Olmec piece, originating from the state of Tabasco, shows the features of a crying infant, into which the artist has molded feline traits. Vestiges of such beliefs can still be seen today in similar crafts from the state of Guerrero. Colored figurines of women with turbans, such as these of El Arbolillo, Valley of Mexico, confirm the existence of the conviction that with such offerings the deceased would not feel alone. These beliefs persist in communities such as Huejutla, state of Puebla. This Olmec figure from Las Bocas, state of Puebla, provides us with evidence that meditation was held in high esteem. The Olmecs cultivated and deepened their knowledge relating to nature and man in villages similar to those still in existence along the coast of the Gulf of Mexico. Since everything surrounding the villages was part of the mystery of creation, animals themselves were mythical beings with their own particular characteristics and powers. Thus the Sarawato monkey was portrayed in many ways, such as this Olmec monkey, found in Las Bocas, state of Puebla, made of polished red-painted clay. The unusual pre-Tarascan shape of this vessel, representing a human face on top of a foot, demonstrates the imagination of the Mesoamerican artist. The ritual of the ball game was related to the movement of the sun and was practiced by warriors wearing special protective gear, as seen on this western Mexico figure found in the state of Colima. The ball game persists in places like the contemporary Mixteca and Sinaloa regions, where it is still practiced using special gloves. Tendencies of art in the post-classical period. Art in the When some villages became ceremonial centers, the house of the mythical ancestor, who is represented by the leaders of the community, was opulently built on a foundation. Commercial exchange was strengthened, and beliefs, cultural expressions, and products spread, affording the transition to state societies. Many communities, nevertheless, remained ceremonial centers, with their social and artistic personalities intact.
If you would like to
The ceremonial centers continued to be ruled by the relatives of the common ancestry, but due to a shift in the social structure, a greater understanding of the stars became possible. Sages became prominent members of society, as we can see in this sculpture from Escala Guerrero of a sage appearing to contemplate the heavens. This zoomorphic sculpture in polished clay depicting a rodent was discovered in Los Ortizes, state of Colima. It is one more example of the artistic drive to reproduce the surrounding reality. Devoid of large animals, Mesoamerica was instead a veritable showcase of smaller species. The sling, a simple but effective weapon, has been used by men throughout history. In skilled hands, it can be deadly and accurate. This figurine of a West Mexican warrior, unearthed in Colima, confirms that this weapon was used in the ceremonial center period. In Mezcala Guerrero, numerous objects of a peculiar style were produced for everyday use as well as for decoration or ritual. Objects similar to these were used as breastplates on collars for daily wear or for burial offerings. Mesoamericans saw in the center of giant snail shells the shape of a star, which they called Ehecacoxcatl, or the jewel of the wind. After the Proto-Classic era, it would come to symbolize Quetzalcoatl as Ehecatl, god of the wind. The snake was held in awe and was even considered a divinity by the Mesoamericans. An example of its presence in the Proto-Classic period is this bowl found in Nayarit, which incorporates reptilian images in its trim. To this day, the snake continues to be respected and feared in certain regions of Mexico, such as that inhabited by the Cora Indians. Art in the When the simple house of the mythical ancestor became a temple, and its foundation a pyramid, public space was encircled by extravagant buildings, and the ceremonial centers were transformed into theocratic city-states. Art became more refined and multiplied throughout Mesoamerica, while the ensuing agricultural and commercial boom concentrated goods, services, and people in beautiful and imposing cities governed by priests.
If you would like to learn how to find objects,
This Oaxacan urn, depicting a Zapotec high priest, is a beautiful example of the abundance of forms characterizing the classic period. It highlights the monumental headdress, adorned with feathers, a jaguar, two hearts, and celestial symbols, which contrast with the austere majesty of Monte Alban. Mesoamerican painting frequently depicted deities associated with birds and feathers. This fresco shows a deity adorned with a symbol of the universe and some flowers which may refer to the song of a bird. Night and day, life and death, light and darkness. Such dualities affected the Mesoamerican man. One way of assuming another personality was by donning a mask, thereby doubling the identity of its wearer. This concept, among others, can be seen in this Huastec-influenced clay sculpture from central Veracruz. Classic period altars are examples of the excellence of the Mesoamerican artist's work. Here the characters, a man, a woman, and a deity, come together in a symbolic and sacred work. Highlighted are the dates engraved as glyphs in the center and extreme right of the sculpture. Mictlan Tocutli, lord of the realm of the dead, was one of the major deities of the Mesoamerican world. His various representations were found in practically all types of artistic media and expression, as in this magnificent yoke. This unique work in igneous rock is an example of the diversity of artistic media used in the classic period. Here, the Totonac artist of Tajín, Veracruz, has created the form of a gopher, a rodent linked to the advanced agriculture of the time. Art in the
in the last 1,000 years before the conquest, Mesoamerica changed radically. Changes in climate, agricultural crises, rebellions, and conflicts within the priestly government caused cities to be abandoned in their prime. New concepts and beliefs maintained by the civil and military sectors profoundly influenced Mesoamerican life and mentality, and art took on new dimensions as a result of the Toltec heritage. If you would like to learn how to find objects, touch the question mark in the lower right corner of the screen. Many boxes of stone, clay, and other materials have been discovered. Made with surprising precision, their function was to preserve valuable objects. Due to their beauty and conception, cases such as this anthropomorphic Mixtec box rivaled the objects they contained in value. Maternity and fertility, the essence of life, were constant motifs in Mexica sculpture. The range of expressive force achieved by the post-classic artist was capable of reaching concepts as powerful as that of the Coatlicue, where their vision of creation culminated. With the advent of militarism, commerce spread to frontiers which have yet to be precisely defined. Trade enriched and multiplied traditional artistic forms and styles, and new expressions emerged, until atypical pieces such as this picture also appeared. One might almost think it was created in our time. Time and water unite in this Mixtec lintel, which combines men and symbols. The four characters who appear seated depart from separate points, moving together toward the center. Over each man hovers an aquatic deity, pouring rain from pots, and between each of them are numbers and the forms of the names of the days: rabbit, snake, jaguar, and motion. In the center, the graphic representation of a date stands out. War simultaneously aided priests, rulers, and Toltec warriors in their rise to power. For their merits and bonds with the gods, they received veneration and worship. Incense burning was part of the daily ritual to the heroes, and in the public squares of great cities, copal was burned in large vessels.
Art in the proto-classical